I'm Evelyn, and I'm a geoholic.
One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, man, what a great song. When our guest this evening picked this song, I'm like, I'm going to like this guy. There's no doubt in my mind.
Immediately your new best friend.
Absolutely. No question. One of my new best friends.
Right?
Best friends. Episode 187. Welcome back, Geoholics.
187.
Man, it seems like 186 was just yesterday, doesn't it?
God, it was so long ago. It feels like it was just less than 24 hours ago.
Indeed, it was. So I normally would expect you to have a good story about right now, but since it's been 24 hours since I've seen you, anything exciting happen over the course of the last 24 hours?
No, I took a shower, cut my hair, went to work.
You didn't cut your hair.
Yeah,
there's stubble.
I cut the stubble.
I still see it. You need a new razor.
All right. Thought this was a no judgment zone. Far from it.
You know that by now. Oh gosh. What's new with me, you ask?
I
did a whole lot, except big news that I saw today. Britney Spears is getting divorced.
She is. You know what I was thinking? Now you got a chance.
I don't think I want a chance with that, to be honest with you. That's like a whole nother level of crazy that I would want no part of whatsoever.
See, I would think the opposite. I would think that you're both crazy enough to work well together.
I doubt that to be the case because I think it's two totally different types of crazy.
Yeah, they say those things kind of work.
Opposites attract, even when it comes to crazy.
That's right.
All right, tell us about that opening number there, Sean.
Oh, I know. Kent was drooling over these guys. The Misfits, a song called London Dungeon. The Misfits are an American punk rock band formed in 1977, known for their unique blend of horror-themed lyrics, punk rock sound, and a distinctive image. That's an understatement. The band has undergone several lineup changes over the years, with Glenn Danzig being the central figure for much of their history. Throughout their history, the Misfits have left an indelible mark on punk rock and alternative music. Their distinctive visual style and energetic sound have earned them a dedicated fan base and a lasting legacy in the world of punk rock music.
Well done, Sean. Well done.
It's almost like I practiced that.
Iconic band in the punk scene, no question.
No question.
Glenn Danzig, iconic frontman in the punk scene, no doubt.
Have you seen the Misfits live?
Have not. Okay. They did just come through Phoenix, so I don't know, the last month, but I think they're playing like in an outdoor venue or something like that. And it's 115 here. Who's going to go see them in an outdoor venue?
A bunch of dedicated fan base.
Horror themed.
I'm sure it was horrible.
But Danzig also went out on his own.
Yeah.
Danzig had some really good music. I'm a fan, no doubt about it.
All right.
Moving on, we are in the Wisdom Wednesday studio.
The
show
took a break this summer, and I just saw that the Wisdom Wednesday is back.
Coming back strong.
I think it's this week or next week or
Yep.
WisdomWednesdays.xyz.
Yep. And anybody who doesn't know what Wisdom Wednesdays is, it's a really cool platform that Trent started. It's basically a book club for surveyors. They take a book, a manual per se, like one of the survey Bibles, and they go through it chapter by chapter, week by week, and they have a little discussion group, that type thing. Really cool opportunity for any surveyor, young, old, anything in between, anybody thinking about surveying. Check out Wisdom Wednesdays. All right. Next up, the Airworks Somewhat Random Trivia.
All right. So this week or this episode, I was thinking about everybody going back to school because that's what happens. All the kids went back to school. So I chose some education-related trivia.
Sounds boring, but go ahead.
All right. The Shishi High School, located in Chengdu, China, is the world's oldest school, established in 194 AD.
Mm-hmm.
The largest school is the City Montessori in Lucknow, India. Currently has 56,000 students. That's an elementary school with 56,000 students.
How would you not just feel like a number in that school?
Right. Back in 2014, there was an elementary school in Turin, Italy, that only had one teacher and one student, which is the record for the smallest school.
That's awesome.
The children in the Netherlands start school on their 4th birthday, so there's always someone new in class.
Interesting.
A couple more. Kids in Finland don't start school until age 7. In Russia, children always start school on Knowledge Day, which is September 1st, even if it's a weekend or a holiday.
Oh, wow.
And in Bangladesh, there are about 100 boat schools because there's seasonal flooding and they can't get to a school on land.
I want to go to a boat school.
Each one of the boat schools has internet access, a library, and is solar powered.
That's amazing.
And you said that was going to be boring.
No, it was good. It was good. Now, I am a little upset because, as you may or may not know, today is National I Love My Feet Day.
I did not know that.
And I'm surprised you didn't go with that because this is observed annually on August 17th. This is a day to appreciate how valuable our feet are.
But I don't love your feet.
To practice good foot care and pamper your feet.
Yeah, see, that would be boring for me.
You don't like a pedicure is what you're telling me.
No.
Oh, have you had a pedicure?
No.
Oh, my.
I just don't want somebody touching my toes.
I thought I felt the same way, but after I've had a pedicure, I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
You would.
Me and Brittany.
You and Brittany can go get pedicures together on your honeymoon.
All right. Next up, we have the Advanced Geodetic Surveys, AGS, Weekly Words of Wisdom.
That's right.
Since we have a surveyor on this evening with us, I went with a surveyor-related quote. This is pretty good. And our surveyor also being from California. This is fitting. Bel Air, I am convinced, was laid out by some diabolic sadist who deliberately decided not to use a compass or a surveyor.
I agree.
Groucho Marx.
Groucho Marx
actually talked about a surveyor. That's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So anyways, speaking of surveyors, speaking of our guests, let's loop in with us right now. We have Dennis Rose with us. Dennis, welcome to the Geoholics.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
And in studio, Dennis flew over this afternoon from his home in Orange County to be with us in person.
I did
How
not
cool
know we were that cool.
It was like yesterday, we were emailing back and forth, final details and stuff like that. And Kara Berry, let's make sure we mention her. She was very instrumental in getting this interview set up. I'm like, I send the usual email. Yep. Remote podcast, here's the link, blah, blah, blah. And she emails me back right away. You know that I've already made air arrangements for Dennis to be there. Is it still okay? I'm like, oh my God, I missed that. Yes, absolutely. We love when our guests in studio. So
absolutely.
Thanks for being here, Dennis. This is awesome.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys.
You bet. So we do start out with an icebreaker every episode.
This is go ahead.
The Trimble Pro Point icebreaker. And I think this is a really good one. This is going to be one of those would you rather questions.
Okay.
Always good.
I love these.
So Dennis, here you go. You're going to go first. Would you rather have a rewind button for your life or a fast forward button?
It's got to be rewind. It's not going to look good if I have to fast forward where I'm headed. I'm a surveyor and former punk rocker, so I'm going to pay a price in the end.
Love it. How about you, Sean?
I would rewind.
Yeah. I would rewind.
I was just thinking. Well, I think I was looking at some house that we're going to do an inspection on, and it was like at the top of the sunny slope mountain, like right on the top. Awesome. I mean, awesome house, and then. Of course, I can't afford it, but I was thinking like there is a series of events that took place that if I changed about 7 things along my life, I could potentially be in a position to live in that house.
So if you rewound, I guess, is there a lot you'd change?
I mean, I don't want to change anything of how anything ended up. It just feels like there was some missed opportunities,
Interesting.
I probably would have gotten laid a couple more times.
Yeah, probably.
Probably got a little better grades in school.
Probably not.
May have gotten
a little, I mean, I had a blast, but I don't know. I just I wouldn't want to end up any different other than maybe some different choices.
Sure.
Fair enough. At some certain spots.
Fair enough. I like it.
And you're a rewind.
I'm a rewind. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to think of advantages of fast forwarding. I don't know if there are any.
That's like what little kids think of whenever Christmas is like, it's like summer and you're looking forward to something you're getting at Christmas. That's like people that want to fast forward, right?
Yep.
Or if you're like in the middle of something really terrible, you want to get through that.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Because like if you're in high school, you definitely want to fast forward and get to college or whatever.
Yeah. And that's when I remember it's like, okay, and it was always, I was in middle school. Once I get to high school, everything will be better. And then, okay, once I get to college, everything will be better. And like, once I graduate, it'll all be better. And now it's like, once my kid gets old enough to move out, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah. But you don't want to fast forward to that.
No, I love my kids. So I want to soak all that in.
So I think it's probably like an age thing, like at the age I'm at right now, I definitely don't want to fast forward.
You want to slow down?
Yeah, I'm thankful for every day at this point,
It's too fast as it is. Fast
God.
forward already.
No doubt. All right, let's move on. Dennis, you mentioned you were a punk rocker. You actually brought us a CD. What was the name of the band?
One Man Short.
One man short. I'm holding a fresh copy. This is a compact disc for those that are unfamiliar with this. It's One Man Short and the album called Of a Dirty Dozen. It's catchy.
I love it. I love it. So you have a great story because the whole punk rock thing ties into you becoming a surveyor.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that timeline and what happened there.
Well, like most surveyors, nobody in high school told me anything about this profession. And I knew I liked technology, so I went into college originally as a theater major, believe it or not. And that was just a little too abstract for me once I got to college. So I knew how to work on computers and thought CIS was the way to go. And as I got into college, I met a couple guys that were into playing music, and we just got together and next thing you know, we're playing in bars, paying money to play, pretty much, because you don't make money as a punk band in Southern Missouri in the early '90s. So, we just kind of had our day jobs and our night jobs. It was like we were Batman at night, and we'd put on our punk rock uniform and go out and do our thing. And then in the morning, I'd get up and go to my corporate job fixing computers in O'Reilly Automotive's corporate headquarters. So, and they all thought I was like a strange bird there because I'd have weird hair, yet I would have a button-down collar shirt, and working under your computer.
Yeah.
But as we came out on vacation in California one time and met a friend out here, and he's like, "Come out." I happened to meet my future wife, and we moved out 9 months later, the three of us, and we kind of one by one fell into the same survey company because I was totally green. I came out and hooked up a computer network for this surveyor that was my buddy got hired on because he went to school for drafting and design. So he's like, "Hey, I'm drawing maps for this guy. We need a computer network." And this was like my first week when we moved to California. And, all right, well, I'll come over and hook it up. Took me 2 days. And as I'm walking out on the second day, the owner's like, "Would you like to learn to survey? We need a surveyor." And I was like, "Yeah, wait, call people on the phone and ask them questions? Like, is that what we're doing?" He's like, no, we're out measuring. We're the guys in the street. I'm like, "Oh yeah, taking pictures out in the street, because that's what everybody thinks." And yeah, what does it pay? And I just remember thinking, I can survive on that. So sure, and just fell in love with it. It changed my life at that point. It was the technology and adventure combined into one, plus learning a state. This wide-eyed country boy from the hills of Southern Missouri is now in the hills of Beverly Hills. It's literally a Beverly Hillbilly survey. And so for 14 years we surveyed cell towers, and I was in on a different mountain site or a different radio tower or a different rooftop, because they'd put cell sites on rooftops. So we'd go to all these strange places to survey and do a 1-day topo boundary and get the hell out of there.
Yep.
And it was just low cost, what I always called the McDonald's of land surveying.
Yep.
We're just flipping burgers here, you know, and I slowly got my my drummer and my bass player all involved. So at one point it was all three of us in the band. We were surveying punk rock band, and it was interesting to live together, to work together, and make music. And it was really never for money. It was for the love of making music. So I've always been proud that we kept a band together for 10 years without making a dime.
Wow.
And we moved 2,000 miles in the process, and still never made a dime. But, it was done for the fun and for the creativity. And that gave us all something to wake up in the morning and still, maybe your job is a grind, but our hobby, our thing on the side was always there for us.
Right.
Do you think you were the only surveying punk rock band? at the time?
I'd say
I would
no.
say yes.
I don't know. Is Southern California in the early 2000s, I found a lot of guys that survey like instruments. I mean, because they're
I
creative.
agree with that.
Right?
Okay. All right.
Have
all
you
right,
ran into
yeah.
a lot of map makers, guys? There's an art and a science to what we do.
Yep.
And I think the guys that key in on the art side, they play guitars. They have, so even in our company right now, I know of at least a half a dozen guys that play instruments.
Okay.
So I think it's kind of a common thread with
Yep.
with truly creative surveyors.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great observation, and it's absolutely true because there's a number of surveyors that I know the same thing. They play an instrument of some sort. The other two guys, are they still surveying?
No, they've he was always more of the office guy. So
Got it.
he was like an idiot savant with he was way higher level math. I actually knew him from kindergarten.
Oh,
We
wow.
grew up all together, and he was always a higher level of math than me.
Yeah.
And so once I got into surveying, I was like, hey man, like, angles and stuff. You can figure out these record maps.
Yeah.
He just became a record map guru and like able to pick apart a title report and, hey, I don't know, this map isn't closing. He'd just set it there, hang it up next to his desk and just type these things by looking at the map. And, oh yeah, I found out where it's
that's
busted
awesome.
right here. He's just,
Yeah.
it was really spatial like that. And then the drummer was more like, typical drummer. He can beat stuff into submission,
There you
and
go.
he was really good in the brush.
Right.
Hey, Donnie, get down in there. There's a pipe down in there. I need you to just go down there and
Start
pipe the hell
chopping.
out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh man. So what do you think it was about surveying that like just grabbed you, and like what do you love about the profession?
Well, I think the challenge. First of all, it was something that I had never heard of. It was so abstract, but at the same time, my grandpa was always into Westerns, but he had never been to California. And then when I got out to California, I'm seeing all these places that I saw in the old Western movies. So being out there, like in the wild, what I always said, we're in the Wild West out here, and to see, learn about California's diversity in their terrain and then learning about plate tectonics and what an epic is and how that affects what we're doing here. And it's like, wait a second, this is moving. We're on something that's moving away.
Yep.
We are falling in the ocean. That isn't just a thing. We're already in the ocean. You just don't know it yet. We're on the Pacific plate.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And like learning that stuff that really wasn't talked about in school. I always had kind of an inquisitive, I always said inquiring minds want to know. I always want to know, what's going on. So I felt like that ignited my brain and the physical side. I liked the physicality of being out in the field. So, and then it was just
hooked.
It just went from there, as the more you get into the advanced problems of surveying and then, like what I do now, setting up large area networks with GPS and figuring out like a combination of technology with technique. And then looking back toward the history and understanding how land rights were developed, especially in California. It's so interesting with like the gold rush and then the water grab that has happened throughout that state, So there's interesting things.
Yeah, and something you said there that caught my attention is, especially in California, because I think there's probably as much movement there as there is anywhere, I'm assuming anyways. And it's like surveys are literally a snapshot in time, right? And it's almost damn near impossible to actually repeat them if you wanted to get very, very technical about it, right?
Right. Well, yeah. So it's a reference system, right? That's always what I got to keep reminding people that, this is as close as to what we could get this moment in time for that measurement.
Yep.
We're using a reference point. So, for example, I've been on a project in Orange County that the benchmarks, the actual county benchmarks, have 3 epics attached to them.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of cool, but at the same time, it opens up a can of worms for, did you use the right value on that disc?
Yeah, right.
And sure enough, I mean, I've waved my hands to the utility saying, hey guys, we started this on a certain epic. Just so you know, you use the same control value. You need to use this value. And sure enough, they stumbled and bumbled their way through that and used exactly the wrong, so the rights of all the easements and everything was attached to the old 1991.35 epic. And then the LiDAR guy came in and flew all the existing conditions on a 2007 epic. And they were off 2.5 feet.
Yep.
And everywhere. And the good news is I could kind of put it back into where it needed to be because that area didn't have micro fractures or micro faults that kind of cause different trajectory and stuff. So but learning how to do that kind of surveying, I think, is what separates, especially in Southern California, because basically if you're kind of south and west of that fault line, that's the major affected area. As we cross the desert and get across the San Andreas fault line, it
then
stabilizes. Right.
Yeah, you're on this side of the divide there.
Interesting.
And we ran a project that crossed that fault line, and you can't get it to close.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't, you can't, because it's constantly moving there. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody on your podcast that's going to tell us how we can get it to close, but
Brian Fisher.
Yeah, there's some issues, and my feeble little mind and our group wasn't going to figure it out. So we figured a workaround for the utility company that had, needed control tied together on both sides. It's almost like a station equation.
Yeah. Well, not every surveyor is a geodesist, you know, and that's a whole nother level stuff.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah. You'll get a call from Brian about an hour after you post this episode of everything that you said wrong and you said wrong, and well, here's how you should do it.
Right.
And,
and I heard that episode with Brian, so Brian, I do concede.
Yeah, exactly. You need both. All right, talk about your company a little bit, GIS Surveyors.
Yeah, so GIS Surveyors, we're a pure geospatial firm. We got about 65 people. We're kind of scattered around. COVID did that to us, right? We learned about remote. So our office kind of people are scattered about, but all our boots on the ground, our field guys are all in California. We got 11 survey crews from Redding, California, which is about an hour from the northern border, to deep San Diego, about an hour from the Mexican border. So that's what it takes to cover. It takes me 15 hours to drive from my Poway headquarters to my crew in Redding. Wow. And we're still in the same state.
Right.
So
crazy, right? Change time zones.
Yeah. And it becomes kind of a logistical, Rubik's Cube, if you will, of how you can get people at the right spot. But, our primary focus being geospatial in support of public utilities and large scale infrastructure, like DOT. So, primarily what we're most proud of at GIS Surveyors is that we help the utility industry with public safety. One thing we're part of is the Pipeline Safety Enhancement Program in California that replaces aging infrastructure. We've been working since 2019 on about a 40-mile gas pipeline replacement in San Diego. It's a 16-inch gas pipe that's been there 80 years, that was running underneath people's homes.
Oh, wow.
And we're now putting that gas pipe in the public right of way, underneath paved way. And, putting, they put a lot of advanced features to help with when they advance warning, or the instant they lose pressure in that pipe, they can have these actuators shut off valves and make it so, if there is a gas leak, it's shut off almost instantly, and so that's the enhancements that, this Pipeline Safety Enhancement Program, since 2014, our company's been involved with that. And so that's on the gas side of things. And then on the electric side of things, we do a lot with the veg management team, fire management, which is actually kind of a pertinent conversation with what happened in Hawaii, definitely. And I think what's going on in Canada
right now. Yeah.
I don't know what started that fire, but I can tell you that the majority of the biggest fires in California were started by public utilities. So, I mean, that's...
I'm sure you guys had a busy, what was that, 2020 when that went, when that was crazy? And
yeah. Well, it seems like every year there's something like that going on. What role does survey play in that, in the safety
vegetation
aspect
management?
Yeah. So there's a number of things. Let's just start with data acquisition, first of all, because our LiDAR team, we have a LiDAR processing team. They're very agnostic to what kind of data they can process. They can process any type of sensor. So we have partners throughout the nation and even internationally that will collect data, and then they get it in the can and they realize they don't have the manpower to process it. So our expertise in processing large-scale LiDAR data is used for vegetation management purposes for all kinds of power utilities, not just for fire threat reasons, but also just outages. Like in a hurricane down in Florida, it's probably not going to start a fire, but it will cause major outages if your vegetation is growing into your lines. So using LiDAR and they have a program. We work for all three of the big power utilities in California, and each of them have a little bit different flavor of program. But in general, they will fly those lines every year collecting LiDAR data, and then they're looking for change analysis and spatial analysis to tell you what trees are growing into the line so they can go out and trim them before they become a problem. And, it's they can't trim all the trees every year. So there's an analytical aspect to it. It's not just, hey, this tree is, this much closer than that tree, so go for it. Yeah, but that tree's growing at such a slower rate that actually the tree that's farther away is going to be into the line before that one. So
how do they know that?
It's about species recognition. So LiDAR can not only tell the species, it can also tell the content of water inside the tree if it's dead or dying. So we'd have dead and dying tree analysis as well. And then not only that, fallen analysis. So, think about like a 30-foot tree. If it's 40 feet away from your line, you may think it's okay, but you may be thinking on a flat plane. What if that tree is up higher than your power pole on a hillside? And now when it falls, the swing is has a different radius to it. So, by using geospatial analysis tools, GIS, Esri products, dashboards, and different analytical tools that we've developed for the power utilities, they can now really be strategic with what they're going out there and cutting, because they have a limited amount of resources, and the trees grow every year. Because you'll just turn around and start this program again next year and the next year and the next year. So.
Wow.
So
That's
even if you have like a really wet winter, that's what you think would be in a less active fire season, that actually doesn't. Then you get more tree growth than you would expect, which causes the fires, and that's wild.
Yeah. So do you guys do the data acquisition as well?
So we do varied levels of data acquisition. Most of the time, I don't own helicopters and planes. Okay, it's just we aren't pilots. We're better focused on being the data guys. And so we do terrestrial scanning. We do indoors, outdoors, more localized. And what we'll do is use the terrestrial scanner to infill areas that may be under a bridge, areas that the overhead can't get. But in general, what we found works best is that there's a market and a need for people to process this data because of the sheer man hours involved. And I think a lot of companies that collect data, especially if you're maybe even a smaller drone company and you get a big LiDAR point cloud, and it's like, well, now you need to process that to the utility spec. Well, do you have 3,000 hours? Because that's what it's estimated to take.
Wow.
And it's like, well, we have 10 people that can do that in the time frame that you need. And so that's where we try to fit in with a need. And because there's plenty of big firms that have the helicopters and the fixed wing aircraft and the LiDAR, and it seems to be guys that want to fly. That's what they want to do. They don't want to process the data. They find out that's the nitty gritty, dirty stuff that is not fun, flyboy stuff.
So are you processing data just for your specific clients, or do you process like other people's data as well?
Yes, everybody's data.
Okay.
Yep. And I like to say that if it comes to power utility LiDAR models, all roads lead to us, because we got the team that we've been able to keep together. I mean, if you can think about it like this, LiDAR used to have kind of this ebb and flow to it, a season when it was hot and a season when you'd have to lay a bunch of guys off. So teams would flex up and then disappear. And so all the different resources and ways that you train guys didn't they don't come out, you don't retain that. So you win an award, it's got to be processed in 3 months. Well, it takes 2 months to get your team to that clip that you need to have it done in 3 months. So we already have that team that's rocking, ready to go, knows most of the power utility specifications already for how they want this stuff classified. And that's half the battle right there. And so we're just going to be cheaper. We're going to do it faster. And it's kind of a no-brainer, especially because we're a service disabled veteran-owned small business, which gives special credits for these larger firms to use us for the processing, for the power utilities. So I think that's why we're kind of a darling in that area, because we got what they need and we check enough boxes off that they're willing to give us some money for that stuff.
Yeah. Right. So what happened in Maui, I don't know how much, you know about that situation, but it was my understanding, I had heard that it was caused by downed power lines.
Yeah. So now listen, this is news sources that, I'm sure this is an ever growing thing, and definitely, my heart goes out. I don't want to make light of any of the situation over there. I was there a little over a year and a month ago, in the exact area that this happened. Every place that I went to in Lahaina is gone.
Wow.
The house we stayed at, every restaurant we were at, the brewery we were at, everything.
Oh, wow.
I was looking at the aerial and just couldn't believe that spot's gone, that spot's gone, everything. And
Horrible.
I do remember when I was out there, this is my business. I look at power lines everywhere I go.
Sure,
Look at
yeah.
that power line. That's a weird tower, and I just noticed when I was out there, in many cases, it was like the power lines and the trees were just intertwined, and it, I think when Hawaii's wet, it's probably not an issue, right? And I think as things dry out, that's where you don't know how quickly they can become an issue, I think. And, so some of the preliminary reports are that they had a plan. The state was trying to put together a plan for this Hawaiian electric company to come up with a fire mitigation plan, and it never got approved. And we're talking, I think it was less than 200 million. Well, now we got a 7 billion at least price tag. And besides the lives lost, and so in California, the California Public Utility Commission, they're just probably the best in the nation for being advanced on what they require of the public utilities. And well, unfortunately, Maui's is only the biggest or the most life lost in a fire like this, second to the PG&E fire that happened and where they burned Paradise down, and so, the California Public Utility Commission is definitely hot on making these guys have a fire plan. They have to turn it in every year, revise it every year, turn in a new plan, and there's some pretty advanced regulations that I don't think are like that anywhere else in the nation right now. And I think you're going to start seeing that on a federal level, honestly, especially when, now I think a lot of people saw this as a California problem, maybe. And I think Denver got a dose of it a little while, a couple of years ago or a year or so ago. And I think, I've had people down Florida Light and Power tell me the same thing. It wasn't as much about fire; it was about uncontrolled outages during big storms. And there's a lot of people that are saying, why didn't they turn the reports are that there was a lot of failed grid alarms during like 2 hours or so before the fire, and they didn't shut off the power. But shutting off power has to be strategic. You can't just shut the power off and eliminate services such as hospitals and people on respirators that got to maintain some level of stability. So I think at the point that the fire's there, it's already too late. I think, and that's where the companies, the investor-owned utilities that we work for in California, they're ahead of the game because they know that. And well, they've been sued. And unfortunately, it takes something like this to be a kick in the pants to get the right people doing the right thing.
Well, the same thing with Hawaii. It might be that realize it's not just a California issue.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of talk about the climate change as this being a more common thing, because it's something we are seeing at a higher interval, but it's probably also just because of population growth too. Right?
Well, that's what I was going to say. As population spreads out, because more and more people are working remotely, there's more and more transmission lines being built, and there's going to be more and more need for the services you provide, I would think.
Yeah, I think there's I've been likening it to an arms race in California because PG&E, because in response to the Paradise fire, has made a declaration they're going to underground 10,000 miles of overhead power lines in 10 years. That's 1,000 miles a year.
Wow.
Nobody's ever done it. I think
that's crazy.
Pretty amazing when they do it, if they do it.
Yeah,
right.
It's quite an undertaking. They're gonna try real hard to make that happen. And so I see this being a constant suck of geospatial resources, undergrounding resources, underground utility locating. All this is going to go toward California, especially in Northern California. And I think, as the other big utility firms in California realize, hey, we got to do the same thing. It's never been a better time to be a utility surveyor in California.
Yeah, right.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Do you guys do any utility locating type services?
So that's something as well. We used to sub that work because it in the design phase, you will get a request and I would just sub it. And I think at one point we were just like, well, we could be much more efficient if we bring it in house. So over the past couple of years, we've started doing what I call dual use crews, where I have the chainman is the utility locator, and the party chief is obviously the survey expert.
Interesting.
And so they can kind of help each other, and you can get 2 crews out of one, basically, if you do it like that and do it right. So maybe I shouldn't let all my
you're kind of like, I could do that.
You can do that. You can do that. Are you guys using like GPR?
Yeah, so GPR is still kind of rough because of the soil conditions. It's hit or miss. Still your trusted best thing is the radio locating. If you know what you're doing, there's a lot of ways to do it with a radio that GPR is just going to be a limiter from time to time. The soil conditions, California does not play well with the soil conditions. So.
Interesting. And the name of the company, GIS Surveys. Do you do GIS related surveys or mapping?
So that's a big part of our fire mitigation team more in the South. They've been working with San Diego Gas and Electric for many years, helping with their fire mitigation, understanding of the strategies involved, such as this is a high fire threat area. But we know this jurisdiction takes 2 years to get it built. So we have to, to get it approved. So we have to create a program that keeps the flow of the work going, even with jurisdictional roadblocks, because they can't just take a 2-year hiatus on their progress of what they're doing here. And a lot of it's a process of turning a wood pole into steel, of undergrounding in some areas, of, most power lines are just bare conductor out there. So when they put them in cable, or a sheath, like a normal extension cord, they call it covered conductor. So believe it or not, just doing that can mitigate so much fire risk. So they have these different programs, and what we do with GIS is, it's really a bit of asset management, along with taking everybody's plans from all these different programs and overlaying them into some kind of, a dashboard or some kind of easy reference. So you can say, hey, we're going to go work on this pole next year. What other programs have got work in this area? And then you'll find out, oh, they're currently replacing it now for this other program. So why would we even focus our efforts on this? We're wasting our time. And believe it or not, that's a big problem with the power utilities, because they're really siloed up with all their different programs. Like, hey, this program is designed to put fiber onto the power poles. Well, some power poles need to be replaced to put that fiber line on it. So they're replacing poles there. This department is replacing poles that maybe have been hit by a drunk driver, and has a problem. They're correcting pole maintenance. So there'll be a new pole put out there because of that group. And so when you have all these groups doing their thing, you don't realize that all the overlap. And now we've done a bunch of engineering because we flew this LiDAR a year ago, but 6 months ago, they've replaced the pole.
Right.
And so now we get out there with our team and realize we're about to replace a pole that was just replaced. So I think that's where GIS comes in. It's really a function of asset management, and then they take all the plans from all these different engineers and they put it into this geospatial database. So there's some correcting of getting, believe it or not, everybody doesn't use the same datum, just that same datum problem I mentioned earlier, how do you get stuff to look right when it's kind of spatially incorrect?
Right.
Big icons.
Yes. Yeah. You can hide underneath that big icon. Yeah. And then the enterprise GIS systems for these utilities, they were never that accurate to begin with, because they were created out of red line drawings or different plans that somebody kind of rubber sheeted into. It looks kind of like it goes in here, So we've found a lot of their assets being off by 1,000 feet. Well, even if you want to go fly at LiDAR, they use the GIS asset location as the center line of their flight. Well, they were missing the power poles that they even wanted to capture. So it'd come back to the design team. And they're like, what are we looking at? Because I don't see any power poles in this. And they're like, the GIS was off. So we've actually been through a process of updating their GIS locations. And this is how technical it is. Google Maps, Google Earth, and looking at Street View and going, hey, that pole is way back. It's over here.
It's next to
You
the
know?
trash can over there.
And obviously, it's not survey grade, but that's not even the issue here.
In some
because-
cases, it doesn't need to be, right?
No, because I mean, a pole has a width to it already, right? So you're
Mhm.
already a foot tolerant at the best. You
Mhm.
know, if you're just talking about the physicality of the feature. But you know, for these, just for the purpose of them flying their lines, they just needed to be within 10 feet, and they would have got it right.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
I think that's really kind of the down and dirty GIS correction that you
Sure.
can do to get it. So now the LiDAR can be flown, and now the LiDAR can be used to correct up and true up the actual
Right.
asset location. So
Yep.
it's a process, you know, just like most things.
I love the folks at Bad Elf. Bad Elf GNS receivers deliver affordable accuracy through easy-to-use hardware supported by continuously evolving firmware, apps, and cloud services. Founded in 2010, Bad Elf created the first made-for iOS external GPS accessory and now enables high-performance location services for all mobile platforms.
Man, that's amazing. Did you also know that all of your new GNSS receivers can be accurate, affordable, and flexible? The Bad Elf Flex offers a trailblazing survey-grade receiver that delivers consistent accuracy at a highly affordable price.
I'm going to stress affordable price.
Yeah.
You got to check it out. Many people think companies go into business to create products and services, but at Bad Elf, they strive to create loyal customers. To find out more, simply go to badelf.com and let them know the Geoholic sent you for the baddest discounts available. Yeah, we've had some folks on before that worked in the SUE, industry, and what continues to blow my mind is how bad, as a country, our infrastructure records are. It's horrible.
Yeah. And I think, it's because there was a bunch of paper plans, right?
Yep.
And I think also what I've experienced in all our underground projects is that the as-built process was deeply flawed.
Mhm.
Okay, because it was a red line process on a paper plan.
Yep.
So there's a number of elements that can introduce error into that system when it's based on a paper plan with human red lines, and nobody ever really probably even took out a tape measure. There's not any dimensions on it. It's just no, it doesn't go this way, it goes that way.
Oh, yeah. Just big old mark. Oh yeah, just jumps on the other side of the street for a little. Yeah, that's very common.
So we're working with a company now, and they're called 4M Analytics, and they're going to have to give me a bonus for dropping their name right there. But they're they're really good at overhead using satellite data and change detection to help true up the underground utility locations. So these we've used these guys in areas like Caltrans where we couldn't get out there and do locating in the freeway, and so we did locating on the side of the freeway up to where we couldn't go out there with our locator. And then I had 4M go through their utility database, and they basically have a database of all of California, all the public utilities already geospatially in, to some accuracy level.
Sure.
It's usually not going to be on the datum you need. So what I experienced was I got their product and I just trued it up with my utility locating. And now you got a water line. You can see where it comes toward the freeway and then continues across and goes out the other side, and using them, their technology with not only they're taking those plans, but then they look at satellite archival 20 years ago,
Right.
ancient satellite technology. And they would look at the images and find out where trench scars were when construction things. So they were looking for signs. It's similar to like what we do for surveyors when we're looking for property corners, getting a pedigree and trying to figure out like, hey, there was supposed to be something coming through here. What's that trench right there, and there was a trench scar here, so we think it's up a little bit more from where the plans show it. So I would say that, they have the quality levels in underground locating like A, B, C, and D, and I would say they're getting a great, like a C+ quality level right from the office before you ever have to go out.
Really?
So that's helping to streamline. I think right now they're doing a state at a time. They started with Texas, they got California, they got Colorado. And I'm not trying to hawk any of their stuff here, but I can tell you that that's the future of where this is going as far as underground utilities.
Interesting.
Yeah. You mentioned that company. I'm like, I swear to God, we had somebody on from 4M.
Really?
But I can't find the episode now. Yeah, I'm like, oh, that's gonna drive me crazy.
Yeah.
But I remember that, when they were talking about the records that they have, like you were talking about.
Was that the fiber guy?
Yeah, the fiber guy.
Yeah, it wasn't for him.
It wasn't for him. No. They did a lot of the same thing though.
But
Same type
in fiber, like they had the nationwide network of fiber everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're just selling that database to everyone.
That's the hardest one to locate, right? Fiber has almost no features in it that is located.
And that's why he was saying that is that no one can find it. So someone's got to keep it, and we're the people that keep it.
Geotel.
Yeah.
Geotel.
Yes, exactly.
Same type thing. So like fiber, like is that like you're talking about like surveying cell towers and stuff like that. I mean, is that considered a utility? I guess it is. Yes, no.
Yeah, I mean, especially when I started 20 years ago, they didn't consider it a utility, and it's definitely not. It's not regulated like the utilities.
Oh, sure, yeah,
right. I mean, the telecom is regulated to some level, but in California, the Public Utility Commission doesn't regulate them like they do the power utilities. So, or water, gas. That's all. It seems like another level. I'm sure one of your listeners may correct us in what it is now, but in my mind, when I was doing cell surveys, it was more like a luxury item still, around 2001 was that when the iPhone was invented. Like smartphones were still pretty early on when I started surveying those cell towers.
When they still called them cell towers.
Yeah, cell towers.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So what, like from a technology perspective, I mean, what advancements are taking place that makes your job easier?
Well, I think AI is probably the biggest one.
Well, that's where we wanted to go. I know I wanted to ask is when you were talking about the processing, and the 3,000 man hours it takes to process that. Are you seeing any advancements from AI that you can see reasonably going to take that down or save some steps? Or
that's definitely it's coming. It's on its way. So we've got a couple sandbox environments where we are testing out a couple different AI platforms. And the beauty is we have a lot of people's data and have a lot of it to compare.
Sure.
And really that's the crux of AI. It needs more data to learn. If you can think about this, data, the auto extraction, it's looking at objects in a 3D form. If it doesn't have a 3D form to reference, then it's going to have problems with that. Let's just say if it's like a catalog of items on these power poles that it's supposed to identify, but the catalog is 2D. The catalog is a picture.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a 3D point cloud catalog that shows exactly what that object's shape is.
So when they try to compare it, it's not comparable.
It's just not how the AI thinks yet.
Sure.
Okay? And so that's a hurdle that's got to be figured out, and it's probably just a matter of time. To be totally, as we see companies build up, especially in the utility industry, it's very specialized equipment that this point cloud, you have to identify out of this point cloud a capacitor, some kind of little bolt-on thing that I don't even know what it's called, but these engineers all know what it is, and the human eye can see that and kind of know that because we have a real good spatial way of turning a 2D object into a 3D in our mind, right? And for whatever reason, AI is not there yet. So I think that's, to me, that's going to be the big hurdle. I think, for veg management, we don't need all the engineering specifications. So veg management's a little bit more, is this a tree? How close is it?
Right. Yeah.
And then the other stuff like engineering, that's way behind because of, again, like what I said, identifying all those very specific items. So we're seeing enhancements in speed, turnaround time for veg management, which is critical because we have to get those things turned around in a timely manner. So engineering will be there. It will be on coming, and then you'll see the time cut down. Right now, it's causing a lot of QA QC. So we do, you go through and you look at these files. The human might miss a group of things. AI is going to miss it randomly. And that's kind of another
Isn't that
trick.
a little more scary? Isn't that a little scarier?
It's a little more
You
random.
really don't know what,
Right.
you can kind of predict where.
I think
when you're
human
doing
mistakes are
QA.
predictable.
Yeah,
right?
sure. It's like, because it's a pattern.
Right. Yeah. And you think like the human that's probably processing it, whereas AI, who knows how it's thinking, right?
So are you saying AI is not perfect?
We created it. Anything we create is not perfect, right?
Including people.
Yeah. Yes.
What about data management? I mean, it sounds like that would be a challenge for what you do.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It is really what separates the big players from the small players. Being able to move terabytes. There's something now beyond the terabyte, and
Really?
I leave that to my egghead LiDAR guys. But they're moving data, so much data every day, just uploading and downloading. Downloading the data from the client, uploading the finished product back to the client. Oh, we just got to review it. Well, you got to download it, review it. So. We have really good fiber connections at all our offices, and it's a lot of cloud based now. So those like Azure systems up in the cloud that now you can just rent a mainframe that's up in the cloud that can do a lot of your processing. So that's the expensive side. Really is moving all that data. I think. Well, the software.
It's a
software.
petabyte.
There it is.
A petabyte?
A petabyte.
Yeah.
A petacoxbyte.
Yeah.
It's a petabyte, exabyte, zettabyte, yottabyte, and brontobyte.
What's the biggest?
On this list, brontobyte is
like the Brontosaurus.
Oh my!
Right?
That is hilarious. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a thousand over a terabyte. It's 6. That's 6 to 18 zeros more than a terabyte.
Holy crap! I had no idea. You're a wealth of knowledge there, Sean.
I know.
Petabyte. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm sure it's petabyte or something.
No animals were harmed in creating.
Yeah,
right.
But on the hardware side, though, I mean, the computers that you guys have to manage this, I'm sure, is pretty costly as well.
Yeah, like a V8 engine in another office just to run it all.
The software is amazing. The software now, it's doing things just like you guys were talking about your podcast software. There's a way it can do the down sampling and things so your computer can handle it a little bit better. Mm-hmm. It's all in the programming now, and I think I'm surprised with how much we can do with, not needing just the gnarliest computers. Because otherwise you just wouldn't be able to afford it, I don't think. So the trick is the software, and that's why it's expensive.
So we ask this a lot. And we get different opinions, but you mentioned the arms race, for example. What do you think is lagging behind? Is it the hardware or software in your space? Does the software need to catch up with the hardware, or the other way around?
I think the hardware's there. I feel like the hardware, these LiDAR sensors are unbelievable, and they're getting penetration through vegetation that I just did not think was possible just 10 years ago.
I got to know how it can tell the moisture content of in the tree.
Well,
is it a density thing?
Yeah. So think about how light reflects and refracts off of things, and a tree that is heavy laden with moisture is going to reflect the light differently than one that's almost styrofoam because it's so dry, and so I don't claim to know how lasers work completely, but this is what I understand.
Okay. All right.
It's just about, because if you think about what LiDAR is, it's light detection and ranging. Well, the light detection is intensity, and that's how they can figure out color and stuff.
Right.
So it's really about how hard that light bounces back off of that surface, and that the software knows what that is because of the way it comes back into the sensor.
So is it telling you the species of the tree based on the color or the shape of the leaves, or some crazy combination of all these things?
It's a crazy combination because it's logarithms in the software now, because the software is getting to where it's auto detecting that stuff now.
Wow.
So,
if you believe it.
If you can believe it. Yeah.
You can believe it.
Could be, well, you've seen Wizard of Oz. There's a guy behind the curtain just pulling some levers, and making it happen. Oh, yeah, that's an elm tree for sure.
Yeah. The software says it was.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a lot of just believing in magic.
Sure.
There's a little bit of that, which
Ghost in the machine.
And I think that can make some, the very traditional surveyors shy away from this kind of work, because it is kind of pushing the limits of what you know all the time, and we're supposed to practice and survey in areas that we consider ourselves experts, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's really where you're trying to stay on top and be an expert in stuff that is just brand new off the shelf, going to all these conferences and stuff and listening to weird guys talk about stuff you have no idea what they're talking about, but trying to soak it up and then knowing, well, now I got to go read this book, and so the key is hiring experts. We hire well. Our top end guys all know are experts in their field and what they do and love what they do. And that's the only way you can kind of go after this advanced stuff. If it was just me, I would probably stick to just the boundary stuff,
the legal part of it.
Yeah, because I understand that part. That's my expertise, so I got to rely on my experts and just try to keep up with their knowledge.
Yeah. So the processing of all this data, does it fall under the definition of land surveying in California?
Well, there's still some gray area there, like most laws, right?
Yeah.
So if it's going to be controlled on the ground, it definitely is. And that's just a debate of the project parameters, because of veg management, they're usually using the center thread of the existing power poles that they've already surveyed as their control. So if you think about it, hey, we're going to fly this line every year. Well, that line is the same line. So we're just going to anchor this data set to that line again. We already have the LiDAR from the previous year. We can mate it up. Doesn't need new ground control.
Yep.
You may not need any ground control because it's all differential, right? All we care about is how close the tree is to the pole, not where it is in absolute space. So it's, again, using the product for what it's designed for. If you take that veg management product and try to use it for engineering, it ain't going to work because somebody didn't control it on the ground. And so to me, not controlled on the ground, that's not a land survey. That's remote sensing, and that was what it used to be called back in the day before it was LiDAR, and there's not even photogrammetry to this anymore. It's pure LiDAR sensory. So, once you start controlling it on the ground, that's where I've seen guys have problems. You can tell quickly guys that know what they're doing because their models fit together and are really tight and not much error. And then the guys that are using, I call mapping grade GPS receivers, they don't, the LiDAR data tends to be what I call fuzzy or almost like it's out of focus.
Noisy.
Yes. And so it definitely is, you got to have a surveyor that knows what he's doing to get that stuff right at that point.
Sure.
And that is definitely land surveying.
Yeah, no question.
Hey there, Kent. Can we talk about Trimble for a second?
We sure can.
All right. Trimble Geospatial provides solutions that facilitate high-quality, productive workflows and information exchange for a global and diverse customer base of surveyors, engineering and GIS service companies, governments, utilities, and transportation authorities.
That was a mouthful, my friend. Trimble's innovative technologies include integrated sensors, field applications, real-time communications, and office software for processing, modeling, and data analytics.
Yeah, using Trimble solutions, organizations can capture the most accurate spatial data and transform it into intelligence to deliver increased productivity and improved decision-making.
Trimble Geospatial pioneering the future of data intelligence, converging people, product, and place seamlessly to help you make your mark and leave your legacy. They also put on a really great party.
Yes, they do.
Trimble Dimensions. We'll be there next year.
Absolutely.
To find out more, go to geospatial.trimble.com. So, like, people that you look to hire, like, what specific skill set or skill, do they need to have?
Yeah. So the beauty of our company, we don't have engineering, but we have all the aspects of geospatial. So we have a LiDAR department that I think those people, their best quality is quick clicking, like gamers. They like to sit in front of a computer all day and click 1,000,000 dots a day, ding, 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 and they like to kind of put together a picture from just nothing, so skills there is, can you sit on your butt for 10 hours straight?
Now you're talking to this generation.
There you go. There you go. Then you got your land surveyors out in the field, and I need cowboys out there because the terrain in California, especially where some of these power sites are, you're getting in a canyon, you're going to a mountaintop, it's gonna get hairy, and so I definitely need the guys that are self-starters and kind of good out there on their own, different skill set completely. The GIS guys, They are not the quick clicker guys. So the GIS department are more the thinkers of geo data, and they can look at a big data set and really wrap their mind around the whole thing and pick out little pieces and so it's a different, again, creative but analytical in the way they think. And then the utility locating guys, those are your problem solvers. So those are the guys that get on site and go, man, I know there's a pipe here, but I cannot get it. There's no tracer wire, and the GPR won't work because of the soil. Mm-hmm. We got to figure out another way to figure out where this thing is.
Right. And then you see why is some weeds growing over here? And then, that's connected to that hose bib, and then that's got to be here. And before you realize it, they backed away into they backed into a location of a water line that otherwise no one would have found.
So we get a real cool mix of people, and I think that's why or at least why I know that's why I enjoy working for our company, is because I get to kind of see all these different skill sets working together. And really it is all, I've had many projects where all of 4 of our disciplines are hand in hand on this project. And it's kind of fun to watch them each have their expertise and how it goes together in the final product.
Sure.
So how do you find people? I mean, are you still in a space where it's hard to find experienced technical staff, and how do you guys recruit? I mean, how do you continue to grow?
It's difficult.
Well, it's so unique what you're doing too.
Yeah, and it's things like this. I mean, that's why I'm willing to fly out here to be in your podcast studio, is because we're out here getting the word out. I think we have an exciting company. We're an employee-owned company too.
The
great. Employees own 30% of our company, and and you just get that for being an employee. And we are kind of aggressive in the way we like to go after technology and new ideas. So I think if I can just get in front of people and talk to people about what we do, I feel like what we do is our best recruiting. Mm-hmm. if you're into anything geospatial, I probably have something that will fit you. But getting the word out, going to Geo Week in Denver, having booths at the different colleges at their career days and stuff. So, but I will tell you this, it is still difficult. It's very, very difficult. And, you have to find the different levels of people that are experienced, but also, on moving up, because it can get kind of stagnant if you come in and all you do is click dots on mm-hmm. LiDAR. There's kind of an end to that in your career. I think you need to progress into something else. So it's always pushing for growth with our employees. Hey, you're going to start off as a chainman, I need to get you to a party chief as quick as possible. So here's some classes. Let's, and this is how we push to develop our people. Or maybe it's, hey, I need another CAD drafter. So how good are you with computers? On the side, on a slow day in the field, you want to come in and sit down and watch somebody, so there's a lot of developing, and trying to just we hire for character. We go after guys that, I think, hey, I don't know, I've never done that before. Well, we like you. And are you willing to learn and take this ride with us? And then that's usually the guys that pan out more than the guy that comes in is like, I'm God's gift to surveying. Those
guys never work out.
They never work out. Yeah. So I would much rather find somebody that's eager to learn and roll up their sleeves and want to build something. That's the way we see it.
Yeah. Just because we talked to a bunch of women last night. Yeah. Do you have any women surveyors?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, we have a husband and wife survey team that's been surveying for 20 years together. Oh, and the husband is the party chief, but the wife I've offered a party chief job to, and she just wouldn't take it. She wants to be, we call her an instrument man, but I said that's short for instrument human.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's instrument person.
Yeah. But instrument man, it's instrument human, like a chainman. That's a chain human is what I always said.
Chain person.
Yeah. So, but she calls herself a chainman. I'm like, hey, if Rachel calls herself a chainman, then we're good. So, she's excellent, and we had a young lady that graduated from Oregon State, and she thought she was going to be a GIS person, but she did an intern with the Oregon DOT and loved land surveyor. So we hired her, and she was a chainman, and she came in for a while and did some GIS, and now she wants to come back to the survey department. So, the field is for her, so yeah. And then obviously the GIS side, we have plenty of girls in there, and,
sure.
And the LiDAR side too. So, but yeah, you're right. Field surveying, it takes a special woman.
Yeah.
I've seen them. I work with a couple of them, but they're pretty rare.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is our partner in India has 50% women in there. They got about 200 people doing LiDAR processing. That's all they do.
Yep.
And they got 50% women in their workforce. And, that is in an area where typically it's 5% women. So we're pretty proud of that.
Interesting.
And we'd like to think that, we at least had a part because we're just keep sending them more and more work, and they just keep having to hire. So, it's a good thing. And we're definitely in support of the diversity. I think that's one thing we've always enjoyed was diversity of not just people, but mind. Because when you get diversity people, you get diversity of thinking. And that's really when the machine starts to reach efficiency, I think.
Well, you did a good job explaining like the different kind of skill sets for the different positions. And, you need a broad spectrum of people from a lot of different backgrounds and personalities to meet that demand. I mean, it's just not one type of person. It's not a traditional survey shop where you need a bunch of cowboys to go out there and hit points. I mean, it's
right. And that's what we grew out of. I mean, that our CEO, he was actually an artillery surveyor in the Marines. He has some crazy stories because he saw combat. He was behind enemy lines because when you're artillery surveyor, you're setting azimuths behind for the artillery. Well, that's all into the target area. So, he kind of had that cowboy mentality, and we all loved it, and I think the surveyors love working for surveyors like that, and I think that's why our field team is really strong. Turnover is the lowest I've ever been anywhere, just because they know that it's kind of who they are. It matches who they are. But I think the other people that aren't cowboys in the company are just interested by the cowboys. It's like, what will they do? What will they do next? Tell us more about these crazy stories you guys are doing out in the field. So I think it creates this. We have a lot of what we call lunch and learns between the departments where we go around and talk about what each department doing, because it goes hand in hand. The more you know about what this department's doing or that department, the more you might know how your product should relate to them. So but we're kind of a team of like, normally a survey company would have probably these 4 things split up and just do one of them, but we like the idea that they all go together toward one common thing, which, way we see it is power utilities.
Sure. Yeah. And that work's not going away.
No.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting. What else? Is there anything we haven't got out that you want to talk about?
Well, I'm really interested in where you see this is going. Not necessarily from a company growth standpoint, but I mean, obviously there's a long runway for your group, just based on all the, everything you have to collect. But what do you see for the company like in the next 5 years?
Well, one thing that we're pretty excited with, and as I mentioned, our Indian team, the main project they're working on is helping with the autonomous vehicle market. They're busy creating basically kind of a dumbed down digital twin of all the roadways. They're doing it at a continent at a time, and with LiDAR, and they will extract all the roadway features. So what is happening is they're going to create this model that will go into the software for these cars so they can drive themselves, and they know exactly where, down to, LiDAR accuracy, the dips in the roads, and the future I see is that these cars will have LiDAR built into them because they're going to use change detection, basically comparing the model that they're collecting to the model that's in their system.
So it's constantly going to be updating.
And then think about when 5G comes in, where the cars will actually talk to each other. The 5G kind of full rollout where my car senses a change in the system, it's going to relay it back to the car behind me, to the car behind it, so some point, auto dealer will probably become the largest holder of geospatial data in the world, because their cars, when you sign on the line that says, I agree to the terms to let the car drive myself, you're giving up all your data that they're collecting, all the location data that they're going to be collecting. And I think, that's when things will get really interesting in the big data world, because they'll have real-time mapping at your fingertips, probably a website where you could just go download a LiDAR model of the road in front of your house or something.
For sure.
That's where I think it's going. And then AI, obviously the more this AI can be trained. Man, I probably can't even think of all the ways that could be used. Really,
do you have the perspective of your partners in India? Are they nervous about the potential of where that's going?
They seem super adaptive. I would say they will figure out a way to make themselves a part of the process.
Okay.
And I think this is people will be and from what I've seen, technology just changes jobs.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would completely agree with that.
Yep.
It doesn't. There's not just so many more people out of a job today because they got laptops. You know what I mean? And I'm sure people thought, well, once you have a laptop, you can have half the workforce you used to have. It's like, not exactly.
Well, I'm pretty sure the guys that make CDs,
they thought
found a gig to keep the food on the table.
They went back to making records. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
They started Napster, those guys.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think just like, we just can't fear technology. We have to harness it, and I think,
I love it.
That's what our company pushes for sure.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. So I like what you said there. So technology changes. What'd you say? You said technology
it doesn't kill jobs. It just changes
them. Yeah. And then it's up to the people to adapt or get left behind.
Sure.
Basically.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because there's going to make robots that will do a lot of, kind of, factory type things, but there's still people that have to work on the robots,
Yep.
and I think, if I was going to have to say how India will adapt, they will just start programming the robots, they'll be the ones programming the ghost in the machine, basically.
Well, eventually someone's going to have to get the people clicking the button a million times a day. Like it's going to get replaced, but then you have people checking the robot that's clicking the button a million times.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And all that's going to do is just increase the accuracy and eliminate errors.
Yeah.
Or reduce.
Yeah. But it still all comes back down. What I love about it is it comes back down to geospatial fundamentals where, the true, garbage in, garbage out model where, the data you put into these fancy systems, the product is only going to be as good as the quality of the product you're putting into it. So, good quality standard survey traditions and workflows, they still come into play, so it's just like everything we do as a surveyor, you look toward the past and the future kind of at the same time while you're, standing right here at the corner of your property line,
Yep.
Well,
absolutely.
What else? What else you want to get out there?
Oh, yeah. It's hot. It's hot as hot here.
Welcome to the furnace, buddy.
Here.
It's really hot. Maybe, I don't know. They say it's a dry heat, but it sure just felt like an oven either way. I don't know.
Well, we've had a little moisture the last couple of days, so humidity's up as well.
Maybe I noticed a little more humidity than I thought.
There's a hurricane coming.
Yeah.
Right to your area.
Yeah.
Right? Southern
we're
California.
supposed to get like 2 inches of rain on Sunday.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So get ready for mudslides. That's the way it works out there.
Sure.
So,
Job security for you.
Yeah. Well, hey, yeah, we do a little dam monitoring. Those are fun gigs out there. Water's such a big deal in California, so, the, whatever gets thrown our way, we know there's probably a way to measure it. Right.
There you go.
So,
I love it.
We're always looking for that, but no, it's, the winter was really interesting in California. I think this was the wackiest winter in the 20 years I've been out there. We had full week of rain out, of 5 crews. We have 11 crews and half of them got rained out. Well, that takes a chunk for a week. That takes a chunk out of your revenue.
Holy cow.
So
well, the flip side of that is it's been 147 days since we've had measurable rain in Phoenix.
Our crews don't get rained out very often.
Well,
that's the way it used
this
to
is
be.
monsoon season, so
that's the way California used to be. This was the first year really where I've had that many rain days. So there's something going on out there, and I think it's just everything like you said, the veg management, everything growing back again, it'll all dry out again. And then
you're right back to where you started.
The Santa Ana winds kick up and we're back into fire season. So,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, we have a question we ask everybody at the end of the show. Do you have a mantra that you live by?
Yeah.
Think back to your punk rock days.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Like, what would 20 years ago you say?
Some of these songs on here.
Oh, it's listed right here. It's Chicken Hawk or Revolution Comes From Within.
That's a pretty good one.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
a good one.
Fade to Brown.
Fade to brown. Well, I want to see the lyrics to that one.
Side, you have to open it up. I got the lyrics.
Oh, man.
Hey, I'd have to go to a Mighty Mighty Boss Tones album title called "Question the Answers." I felt like that's always been my my mantra through the years because, you know, remember when adults would just lock things off and they'd be just like, "Because I said so," you know, and they'd have an answer, and it's just like, that is the worst answer ever. I hate that, you know, and
Yep.
I do say as we go into, you know, the future, as we go into areas of unknown, I always have my people, hey, if I tell you something and you don't know that this is right or why did I say that, question me, please. You know, make me explain myself. You'll find out that there's something to it, you know. And so that's always been kind of my mantra. It's probably got me in trouble about as much as it's done me good, though. You know, so there's certain people you cannot question the answers to.
My dad was a big "because I said so" kind of guy. I should have that tattooed on me, actually.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right, Sean. Anything else, buddy?
No, man. This has been awesome.
Been a great conversation.
I love the especially the timeliness of what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
And all the tech that goes into it, man.
For sure.
It's a lot of good stuff. Really appreciate it.
For sure.
being here.
Dennis, thanks for being here. This has been great.
Appreciate it.
Really appreciate you
Great talking to you guys.
making the effort to come in studio.
Yeah.
Always a good time.
Yeah. I hope to come back sometime.
Love to have you. All right. Adding value and making friends.
There we are.
Like 2 nights in a row.
Right.
If anyone would like to be a guest on a future show, shoot us an email at info@thegeoholics.com. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, join our LinkedIn group. We'd love to have you. The Misfits London Dungeon. We got to look at those
London
lyrics.
Dungeon.
What is that all about? Available everywhere. Until next time, everyone, revolution comes from within. The next top 10 punk rock hit. Question the answers. Love that. Most importantly, be safe and healthy.